If we think about the way that we live, what you might call our lifestyle, today we actually have access to more biodiversity than we've ever had before. If you go to a supermarket here in Tokyo, you'll be able to buy, you'll be able to get mangoes that come from Thailand or from West Africa. You'll get sugar that comes from Brazil. You'll get soybeans that come from North America. So you're getting things from all over the world. You actually have access to more biodiversity than ever. If we look at the impact of species extinction on the economy, the real case is that we haven't actually lost so many species. Species are endangered. They're losing their populations, but not so many have totally disappeared. It's especially on the small islands where many species of birds are gone forever. And what this means for the people who live there is that their culture has to change. And so they have to adapt to new species that have invaded. For most of the rest of us in the continental parts of the world, it's much more a matter of the populations of species being much more reduced. And what this means is that ecosystems, the way that the wild nature responds to geology and water and the topography and so forth, is changing. So if we go into the forest, we're much less likely to see the kinds of wildlife that we once saw. When we talk to old people about how things were before, they'll tell us that the clouds were dark with flocks of birds that were flying. And we've lost that. We've lost our touch with nature. We've lost a way of thinking about ourselves as part of the natural world. Why is this important? If you look at the mental health of people, there have been a lot of studies that show that people who are living close to nature are psychologically healthier. Students who live close to nature, or at least have trees around their houses, are better students, less disruptive in class, better adapted to a reasonable life. So having people live as part of nature is much healthier than having people live totally separate from nature. And the biodiversity crisis means that we're losing the opportunity to live closer to nature. So if you're living here in Tokyo, you might say, wait a minute, what's this loss of biodiversity? I have more than I've ever had before. But think also about the price that is being paid for this biodiversity. What does it take to produce these kinds of things so that you in Japan, or people in New York, or in Bangkok, or any of the cities of the world, what does it take for them to have access to this biodiversity, to this diversity of goods and services that come from all over the world? Well, it takes quite a serious influence on the environment. Some studies have shown that we already live beyond the carrying capacity of our planet, that sometime around the end of the 1970s, we started to consume more of nature than was being produced. So all of us who are living a high and affluent lifestyle, the way that people do in most cities, are already drawing down the capital of nature. We're living in a non-sustainable way. So what can we do? We've seen already that as the price of oil has increased, people buy automobiles that are smaller. Perhaps people need to buy food that is much more ecologically sensitive. We have coffee that's called shade-grown coffee. It's coffee that is grown under trees, that is much more environmentally friendly. When you go to a supermarket, you can very often see a label that will say that this is grown in an ecologically healthy way. Organic agriculture is often much healthier for people. So that's one thing we can do. We can be much better informed as consumers. I think that another thing we can do is join conservation organizations. Try to help WWF or the NACS Japan or any of the NGOs here in Japan, Greenpeace, many others, that are actually working to try to conserve nature. And then if you think about your vacations, don't go to Las Vegas, gamble all your money away. Go visit the national parks. Go make a reconnection with nature. See how happy you are walking through the forest, enjoying the singing of birds, the beauty of the countryside, the grandeur of the mountains. And being a part of nature to the extent that you can will be something that you will find personally enlightening and will also help to encourage the government to continue to invest in maintaining these kinds of areas for you to visit. All of those are things that individuals can do to help ensure that biodiversity remains an important part of human well-being. I would like to say a little bit more about the Conference of Parties of the Convention on Biological Diversity. This is a convention that has 191 governments who are members, so it's almost universal. This is going to bring very high-level delegations from all over the world who are going to be looking to address some issues that are really very important for the future of nature in the world and even the future of societies. We're going to be talking about something called access and benefit sharing, which is a very complicated phrase, but it's really about how do you take the values, the unique values of any particular place for the genetic resources they contain. And suppose somebody discovers in Honshu a species of plant that is able to fight cancer. Then how does the community that discovers this, how do they get a benefit out of that? Out of a drug that benefits the whole world, but what about the people who discovered it? What about the people whose way of managing the environment enabled this plant to grow? How do we share the benefits that come out of this, the global benefits that come out of this plant with the local people and with the government of Japan or with the people of Japan? That's looking at a wealthy country. For poor countries, especially in the tropics, they have many more species. They have many more claims for benefits that they're providing to the world. How do we find ways of sharing those benefits? A lot of countries in the world now have established protected areas. We now have well over 100,000 protected areas in the world. The Biodiversity Convention has a program of work on protected areas. I think that we would like to see Japan contribute a lot to actually implementing that plan. The protected areas of Japan are well managed. Japan could share expertise, could take people out and show them protected areas, how they're being managed both on land and in the sea. These are things that Japan can contribute. I think that this is an opportunity for Japan to showcase the things that it is doing to help to implement the Convention on Biological Diversity. And finally, I think that Japan, the people of Japan, should take advantage of having the whole world coming to Nagoya to make sure that all of the people of Japan now understand what is biodiversity, why is it important to them, and how Japan can contribute to helping the whole world to conserve its biodiversity, to use it sustainably, and to share equitably the benefits that arise from genetic resources.